NVIDIA is the largest install base of video game architecture in the world. It's still growing incredibly well, super vibrant.
He has like a 10, 20, 30-year plan.
NVIDIA GPUs are the substrate for intelligence.
Jensen is brilliant, so I fully admire him for that.
I think that what we are at the doorsteps of is the new intelligence age.
From revolutionizing video game graphics to building a $2 trillion technology empire, Jensen Huang's journey is a testament to vision and perseverance. As NVIDIA's CEO and co-founder, Huang led the company's expansion into AI, data centers, and autonomous technologies. Explore the story behind the rise of a true tech titan.
First of all, he has a very high IQ. He's very smart, okay? He works incredibly hard. He works to the point of collapse basically every day. But the missing ingredient and the hard ingredient is that courage. It's actually that willingness to take a risk and even be punished and fail in pursuing what you believe is right. And I think that's hard for a lot of people. There's been times, as my reporting revealed in my book, he's been very successful with building this supercomputing platform. But for 10 years, it wasn't going anywhere. And in fact, he had activist investors trying to unseat him from his position as CEO. So he really had to fight hard for this kind of vision that he had. Jensen spends a great deal of time on the front lines of his company. He spends a great deal of time, more than the average CEO, talking to lower, junior level employees. He spends a great deal of time talking to customers. And not just his biggest customers, but sometimes very deliberately, even his smallest customers. Because his belief is that his smallest customers can someday be his biggest customers.
This guy just keeps on delivering the next generation that's like, the B100s are going to be 30x more efficient on inference compared to the H100s.
Yeah.
Like imagine that, like 30x is not something that you would easily get. Maybe it's not 30x in performance, it doesn't matter, it's still going to be pretty good. And by the time you match that, that'll be like Rubin. There's always like innovation happening.
This is the most complex, highest performance computer.
People are kind of obsessed with the fact that you and Jensen are distant cousins. I know that you are competitors, but do you ever trade notes?
Well, first of all, Jensen is brilliant, so I fully admire him for that. We were really distant, so we didn't grow up together. We actually met at an industry event, so it wasn't until we were well into our careers.
So no family dinners, just to put the rumor to rest.
No family dinners. And it's an interesting coincidence.
The direction for the industry was set by Intel for decades. Right now, the whole AI thing is built on NVIDIA. NVIDIA is coming out with software, new chips, new services faster than anybody else is, and everybody's just following them because that's the easy thing to do. At a certain point, they become utterly pervasive, and then the cost of replacing them becomes difficult.
So in the early 90s, when we first started the company, we observed that in a software program, inside it, there are just a few lines of code. Maybe 10% of the code does 99% of the processing. And that 99% of the processing could be done in parallel. However, the other 90% of the code has to be done sequentially. It turns out that the proper computer, the perfect computer, is one that could do sequential processing and parallel processing, not just one or the other. That was the big observation. And we set out to build a company to solve computer problems that normal computers can't. And that's really the beginning of NVIDIA.
In fact, 2 years ago, we had just launched the largest AI supercomputer in the world together on Azure. And then right now, as we speak, we are in full production with Grace Blackwell. We are ramping and scaling and building the largest AI supercomputer in the world in Azure. And so this is just an exciting time, literally 2 years later. Well, during that time, we've innovated across the entire stack. This is the big change in how computing works now. Instead of just the processor running static software, if you will, everything about the stack has changed. And so our processor has changed, our NVLink has changed so that we can scale up to a much larger compute node. It's liquid cooled. The architecture is FP4 Tensor Core. We now have the ability to connect Grace and Blackwell coherently over a super fast link. Very important in the world of KV caching as we talk about these large agentic model and agentic workloads. And so all of this stuff combined with our new CUDA algorithms and new model technology in your new AI infrastructure on Azure, together, all of that together, 40x speed up over Hopper. 40x speed up over Hopper. That's just an insane speed up in just 2 years.
The fascinating thing about him, like all the people that work with him say that he doesn't just have that like 2-year plan or whatever. He has like a 10, 20, 30-year plan.
Oh, really?
So he's constantly thinking really far ahead. So there's probably going to be that picture of him that you posted every year for the next 30 plus years. Once the singularity happens and NGI is here and humanity is fundamentally transformed, he'll still be there in that leather jacket announcing the next the compute that envelops the sun and is now running the entirety of intelligent civilization.
NVIDIA GPUs are the substrate for intelligence.
Yeah, they're so low-key about dominating.
Jensen was coming from a different place. He was a more humble sort of person. It's sort of not my place to say in some ways, but I definitely think that this kind of Taiwanese background, this immigrant background, kind of close-knit Taiwanese family values play a huge role. Like a huge role in who he is.
The common vision at the time was that accelerated computing would be able to solve problems that are interesting, and that if we were able to keep the architecture consistent, meaning have an architecture where software that you develop today could run on a large install base that you've left behind, and the software that you created in the past would be accelerated even further by new technology. This way of thinking about architecture compatibility, creating large install base, taking the software investment of the ecosystem along with us, that psychology started in 1993 and we carried it to this day, which is the reason why NVIDIA's CUDA has such a massive install base. And that, because we always protected it. Protecting the investment of software developers has been the #1 priority of our company since the very beginning. And going forward, some of the things that we solved along the way, of course, learning how to be a founder, learning how to be a CEO, learning how to conduct a business, learning how to build a company.
Not easy stuff.
These are all, new skills, and we're just kind of like learning how to invent the modern computer gaming industry. NVIDIA, people don't know this, but NVIDIA is the largest install base of video game architecture in the world. GeForce is some 300 million gamers in the world. Still growing incredibly well, super vibrant.
So our first principles, right, are what you are driving.
Thank you.
Is the knowledge revolution converting into what I call the intelligence revolution. And that drives prosperity across the world for all the 8 billion people. And I think that what we are at the doorsteps of is the new intelligence age. And on behalf of everybody, I am very proud to have you as my friend, and welcome to India, and thank you for actually contributing to the world to bring the intelligence age in our lifetime, and hopefully together with everybody, this can drive to more prosperity for all the 8 billion people in the world, and particularly the 1.5 billion people in India.